Less is more, and that's one of the key reasons why black and white thrives.
Black and white. It's such an important area of photography that so many people ignore, don't like, I'm not sure particularly. It's so important, and I'm going to talk about why. Black and white takes away the complication of colour. Often the colour is entirely unnecessary in an image. And it's one of those things that, because black and white came before colour in terms of photography and TV and film and all this stuff, there's a tendency to look at it and think, well, it's very retro. But it's going to teach you a great deal more about photography than almost anything else, because when you strip away the colour, we are dealing with purely tones. And it's the tones that are the really important thing. If you can see in tones, if you can talk in tones, you can convey so much more. And it will help you also find decent compositions as well, because the colour often, as I say, complicates the issue. I think in many ways black and white can make our photography simpler, because it does remove that confusion of the colour. Sometimes colours don't go together. I mean, we've got this kind of mishmash of colours here for this fishing basket and all of these crates and everything else, and there's yellows and blues and reds, and it's like, well, a bit of a cacophony of colour. But you take that away and you deal solely with the shade, the texture, those tones. One, you simplify the image, and two, it makes it easier to actually compose it. So I've got a shot of just these ropes, this hemp rope or whatever it is here, focusing on that, f2.8, everything else is really quite soft comparatively. It's a nice image, but it says so much more, that all of the focus is on that rope. And by concentrating on just that one thing, but keeping the rest of the context there, we've got an image that tells a story. We've got an image that's really rather simple, and well, I like it. Let me know if you do.
If we start with the colour one, you can see just how kind of, well, meh it is. There's nothing much to it. I could edit it so that it was better for sure, but the image was created with mono in mind, and it just looks better. Let me know what you think.
I've got a similar kind of story here. The story is about this door, but not all of the door. We're talking really just about that handle. And because we can see through the door, we've got the light on the other side, we can use a high contrast situation to pick up that handle, throw the rest of it into very soft focus. And we end up, again, with an incredibly simple but quite evocative image of the door, and a bit of a kind of suggestion of the steering wheel up there, a bit of a suggestion of the bracket for the mirror. And again, I think it works. Let me know.
Now you might look at this and say, hold on, that door was dark, and indeed it was. In processing, I've simulated a blue filter, which effectively brightens up the blue elements. The door was blue, therefore that area has become lighter. Now the reason I've done that is because of highlights. Your eye is drawn to the brighter areas, and the area of the window is far, far brighter than the handle, and i.e. the subject. Therefore, it was a necessary edit.
When you start seeing these images, and you'll notice that the majority of them are going to be quite detailed images, close-ups, telling stories of items along the promenade here that are all part of the fishing fleet and everything, and kind of making it obvious that they are, because whilst we're focusing on one particular thing, so the next shot is this kind of cowling on the radiator of the tractor here, another tractor in the background and the like. So it's all very soft focus on the whole thing. And we can get away with that in black and white, particularly high contrast black and white, because we're not terribly interested in necessarily the detail behind. We want that kind of soft, ethereal look. It's about what we're taking the photograph of, and the background is giving a degree of context to it. But it's just the way that we can sculpture the light. Well, not sculpturing the light at all, of course. We're not controlling the light at all. But what I mean is the way the light kind of captures on these things. And we haven't got any direct light here now. It's all very cloudy up there. But there's still these light and shadow areas, and I just think it's incredible. It's evocative in a kind of industrial way, semi-industrial. Let me know what you think. This section of the video is sponsored by Aerless. It's a pro-grade vacuum packing system that's designed specifically for travellers. These super strong bags allow you to really compact down your clothing into the smallest possible space. It saves up to about 60% of its uncompressed size, and it's great for getting more stuff into small spaces. It's brilliant for ensuring that your luggage is compliant, say for airline carry-on requirements or for hiking, camping, and so much more. If you've seen these kind of things before, you'll realise that you need a vacuum cleaner to get the air out. So Airless really are very helpful, and they come with one. It's this tiny little orange USB-C rechargeable fan. It will suck all of the air out, and you can take it with you, and of course that means you can use the bags throughout your trip. Unpack at one end, repack again, job done. Airless bags are a traveller's dream, and if you use my code ANDY, you'll get 10% off your order. If you scan the QR code on screen, I'll find my affiliate link down in the description. You can save yourselves a whole load of hassle when travelling this summer. Right, back to the photography. One of the things that mono is great for is harsh light, and of course this is very common in summer. For some reason I've never really gotten a definable understanding of, black and white skies that are essentially featureless seem to work very well, and so much better than a blue summer sky that most seasoned landscape photographers would simply avoid at all costs. I know plenty of people that will not even photograph during the day at this time of year. Maybe you can explain why a black and white sky of nothing is better than a blue sky. I'd love to read your take on it in the comments. But anyway, black and white can be great for summer photography. And on a similar topic, mono can be really forgiving for blowing highlights, particularly the skies. But I would also urge a little caution and think ahead a bit to the processing. You see, black and white often needs really careful developing to get the absolute best from it, and that usually also benefits from a little bit of grain. Now, grain delivers a general softness to an image. It smooths out those hard contrast areas so it's not jarring. It just gently sandpapers those edges to develop a subtle light fall off. And the one place you can't add grain is to areas that are totally blown out. There's literally no data to overlay any grain onto. Perhaps it's a personal choice, but I'd really urge you to consider that this problem exists. Expose properly, watch the histogram, look at any overexposure blinkers or what other tools your camera might have. Otherwise, you may have to just dull those blowouts a little bit in post so that the grain could be added. It's also worth considering framing issues in relation to this, because many images are really enhanced by some kind of frame or border around it. And a border around a bright white, no detail sky might just look wrong. It's as though you're framing around the top of an image that actually isn't there. Whilst I would recommend using a mono profile in your camera, I would suggest that you use this purely for guidance purposes. Sure, JPEGs are good, but not if you're trying to recover highlights, because they may have existed on the sensor data, but it's been thrown away by the JPEG compression. For the best possible results, capture in RAW and then do a full mono edit in post. I recommend using silver effects alongside your photo editor of choice. It's a standalone application that can be used as a plugin for popular software like PhotoLab or Photoshop, Lightroom, Affinity, that kind of thing. It's a dedicated processor of monochrome images, and literally nothing comes close to it in my opinion. It's actually part of a much larger suite of image adjustment tools that makes up the Nik Collection from DxO. There's links down below to download and try it free for a month. No credit card, nothing like that. Just try it. It will stop working if you don't activate it. But if you like it, and I think you will, you can use my code AndrewB15 for a whopping 15% off for new DxO customers. Maybe I'll produce a members video showing my monochrome post-production workflow in a few weeks. Let me know if you'll find that useful. Now, the kind of subjects and scenes that I look for in mono is always something that is clearly defined, whether by contrast, generally luminosity far more than colour, or by shape. Texture doesn't come into it until you've found the shapes, really. As I mentioned with the photo of the tractor door and the handle, in general, your eye will always be drawn to the brighter parts of a scene or an image. And as my hack showed earlier, that's not always something that we consider, at least I didn't, at the composition stage. Hands up, I kind of failed in that shot. The idea was solid, but I had to find redemption in post-production for that image. Now, one thing that might have helped me on the beach would have been the squint method. This is both useful at the composing stage and also the post-processing. It's so basic that you might wonder why you don't use it all the time. And for me, it's purely down to habit. My adult brain needs drill and practice to lock things in. And it's only when I'm making these videos that I tend to recall particular techniques. Stupid, I know, but I suspect it might be much the same for you if you've got a vague recollection of hearing about this technique before. Kudos if you're already using it. But what is it? So the act of squinting works to deliberately defocus your vision. It cuts down the amount of light that you're taking in, but it makes things blurry. And it's the blurriness that is doing the work for you. It's limiting your ability to see the detail, and you concentrate only on the brighter shapes because it's the brighter shapes that will generally grab your attention. Detail comes in only once someone's attention has been grabbed. And of course, you've stopped squinting and can focus again. Now, the same method can be used in post-processing, and it's particularly useful in high contrast black and white. Now, of course, the aim here is different because you've already captured the image. You can't change the composition anymore, but you still have complete control of where the eye is drawn to through the highlights and the shadows, or more particularly, of course, the highlights. So if you squint at the image during your editing of it, you can see instantly where you might need to make adjustments. Again, I take you back to the tractor door. This image really wasn't perfect in camera, but by adjusting the tonal elements in post-production using silver effects, I've been able to get your eye to the subject rather than be distracted by the sky through the cab window. Now, of course, you might turn around and say, that's not a true representation of what was there. Now, if you do, let me point out to you that this is not documentary photography. The world is not black and white, and neither are we trying to be dishonest with the image. Remember, this is a creative pursuit, not a journalistic report. It matters not that the tractor door was blue or yellow, only that the viewer is drawn to the image that we visualized at the time. We're working only with tonal values that gives us certain freedoms that simply don't exist in color. Without the competing hues demanding our attention, every decision is about the light and the shadow and the relationship between them. We can make an image feel dramatic with deep blacks and bright highlights, or calm and understated with gentle tonal transitions, all without worrying about that color balance or saturation. We can guide the viewer's eye by controlling brightness alone, separating a subject from its background through tone rather than relying on hue to make it stand out. By stripping away colour, the photograph becomes simpler. It's more deliberate and often more expressive, allowing us to concentrate on the fundamental building blocks of photography. Of course, light, contrast, shape and texture. The thing with black and white, though, is that you really should be intentional about it to get the most from it. Sure, many colour images can look good in black and white, but that's leaving things to chance. If you set your camera to a black and white profile and actually start previewing the images in mono, intentionality is baked in from the start. Use your EVF or LCD screen to view your composition in mono and you'll get an instant idea of whether it works or not. Use the squint method to find your image. Whatever method you fancy, do something amazing in mono, because even if you feel that you're not getting better compositions, you are at the very least improving your skill set, because it's all practice, and the more you understand, the better you'll become. I recommend watching this video next. It will give you a grip on how you can find great photos in your local area. No car needed.